Here it is. We are finally at the fourth film. To think that this series has been going on since 2008, it's now 2024. Crazy to think that way. To think that this series could last this long. Anime franchise.
You finally met your match, chameleon.
We're not so different, you and I.
Skadoosh. Stand back. I'm gonna kick my butt.
Seven Nation Army couldn't hold me back.
Kung Fu Panda 4 was directed by Mike Mitchell and co-directed by Stephanie Mae Stine, and was written again by Jonathan Aibel, Glenn Berger, with an addition of Darren Lemke. The film has a star-studded cast, some returning and some newcomers, including Jack Black, Awkwafina, Bryan Cranston, James Hahn, Ian McShane, QQ Quan, Dustin Hoffman, and Viola Davis. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, after Poe is tapped to become the spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace, he needs to find and train a new dragon warrior while a wicked sorceress plans to resummon all the master villains whom Poe has vanquished to the spirit realm. If you thought the gap between Kung Fu Panda 2 and Kung Fu Panda 3 was long, this takes it. It has been 8 years since the third film, and the journey of Poe continues once again. I could say for myself that the film is another entertaining outing in the series, but unfortunately, I do think that there are cracks that are starting to show within this movie, and cracks that I hope get resolved. But I digress. Here are some of the positives that I found with the film. I think, as always, the voice acting is always stellar. Jack Black is always fun and hilarious as Poe, and I mean, why wouldn't anybody see that? Seeing Poe advance in his training and find the new Dragon Warrior, Black still brings his energy throughout. No matter what, I really believe Black is always having the best time of his life playing this role. Every time he's on screen, he just always has that same energy and same level of wittiness that he's always had with this character. And for that, I think Black still continues to shine no matter what, through and through, with this character. Awkwafina is also a good addition to the series as Jen, who is essentially a gray fox type of character. She brings the sarcasm and stubbornness to Jen that makes her a delight addition to the series, as well as just being another great character to add to some fun action sequences. I think both Black and Awkwafina work really well off of each other. They seem to have really good chemistry with each other throughout, and just seeing that chemistry and seeing how they both work together is just entertaining to watch. You really have fun with these two throughout, and they always bring the excitement factor whenever they're on screen. Both Cranston and Hahn are hilarious together this time around than we saw with the third movie. This time they get to work together, and I actually really like their little storylines, but both of them are excellent in the film. Watching Li Shan and Mr. Ping try to find Poe together as caring fathers is funny and heartfelt. Q Quan is another welcome addition to the series as Han. Quan just brings a quirky and charming demeanor as the leader of the Den of Thieves, which I thought was interesting, and I really liked his interaction with both Black and Awkwafina. I thought it was actually pretty funny with the screen time that he was given. Dustin Hoffman returns as Master Shifu, and once again, it's just fun to watch. Hoffman still just brings his calm and deadpan nature to Shifu that makes the character just always entertaining and always a delight whenever he's on screen. Both Black and Hoffman still work well together. No matter what, I really think that these actors are always having the best times with each other when their characters are together, and which means both of them are in the same room. They always seem to have a blast, and they seem to have a great relationship with each other. Viola Davis is scary and as cunning as the chameleon. Having seen Davis bring that kind of same energy that she did with something like The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which came out last year, which I actually enjoyed, was a delight for her to bring that same energy and bring it into this film. Davis continues to be a fantastic actress who just brings her all with any film, and I think this is one that, again, just shows how much range she can always bring to a character like this. And it was just a nice, great way to have an actress like Viola Davis on your casting list. I mean, that's just always a great thing to have. The animation is stunning. Though the film's budget, I think, is lower than the other movies. I believe it's actually lower in that this is, I think, 80 million, while the others were like 100 million. The animation is always going to be gorgeous, and I think that no matter what, the characters, the fights, and the environments are always like the biggest standouts in these movies, that I always am just blown away still with regards to how much they are able to keep every little detail and every little minuscule of that animation just perfectly right with regards to how well it flows. The direction is on point. Director Mike Mitchell and co-director Stephen May Stine just keeps the same energy as the previous other films. The way the film is handled from scene to scene, Mitchell and Stine are just really welcome additions to this series as a whole. And I always feel like with each new addition, each new members, they always just manage to keep this series going with whatever they have in mind. And it's always a great time to have that kind of energy still present. The music is still fantastic. Hans Zimmer once again returns to score, as always, but with composer Steven Mazzaro joining the franchise, and they just knock it out of the park. From the calm moments to the action scenes, Zimmer and Mazzaro just keep the film exciting with that music. Kung Fu Panda, I have to say, is possibly one of the only animated franchise to still keep a sense of visceralness while also having that sense of fun and just calming music to it. That it just blends itself super well, and I very much always appreciate the score for these movies. The action sequences are incredible. The series just keeps topping themselves with creative and interesting action scenes. Throughout each of the franchise, there's always one that most people could pick out as being a great action sequence, and this movie has, I think, probably two, but one in particular involving a bar on a cliffside just makes for a unique fight. Because the bar is shifting because it's on a cliffside, and to see it go back and forth and see how Poe and Jen fight off these criminals and thugs is just always awesome to see. Really unique action sequences be infused into this series. It helps it keeping itself standing out amongst other animated features that have great action sequences, but just for the series as a whole, they always just have that different level of action regardless of what it is. The writing is stellar, just like the previous films. The writing just continues to shine in the humor and emotional moments, and I just think the film is entertaining due to that writing. Jonathan Aibel and Glenn Berger, they seem to have a picture in mind whenever they're making these movies, and they always seem to always have fun making these films, so it's always a great time to see that talent be brought to life whenever they're writing this series. It's awesome to see them. The pacing and runtime is perfect. Each scene flows really well and keeps it at that consistent rate. With a runtime of 1 hour and 34 minutes, the film is just perfect. These movies are always, I think, are always perfect with what its runtimes are supposed to be. I don't think at this point, a lot of people always ask for animated features to be longer. I always like these. There's a reason why animated films are always some of the best films in the film industry, and that is because of how well movies are run with animation. Because of the pacing, that's why this runtime works so well, that I just am always astonished that they are able to cram all that stuff within at least an hour and a half. As much as the film is fun and exciting, it's kind of now starting to show problems in the series that are prevalent in this film. Here are some of the negatives that I found. I think the villain is really not that exciting. Although Davis is very good, the Chameleon just isn't the best villain in the series. She's not really intimidating compared to the other villains that have come before her. At least with the other villains, they at least put up much of a fight with regards to their physical and just determination factor. While the Chameleon has determination factor, in terms of being able to just copycat people, I wasn't crazy about, because I understand she's a chameleon, but at the same time, by doing that, it's kind of cheating, because she could just use somebody else's powers. So I just thought that as much as Davis does an amazing job, I just think that the character herself is just not that intimidating compared to the other villains that have come before her. The story, I just think, this time around is a little bit formulaic throughout the film just kind of feels like a combination of both really the second and third film, if you really think about it, because with the second movie, it had to deal with a villain that has no sort of fighting presence, and of course it's going to a much bigger city, so you have that with the second movie. And then with the third film, I say the Chameleon's kind of like the villain of the last movie, in that you have her just kind of taking people's essence and just using their powers to just grow in terms of strength and versatility. And I just think that it just feels like the movies are starting to kind of combine together in that way. I think the biggest problem with this movie that I, of course, was prevalent even in the trailers and all that stuff, but is a major disappointment is the absence of the Furious Five. It's really apparent that though it centers really on Poe finding a new Dragon Warrior, it's just disappointing to see the Five just be absent in this movie. They gave an explanation, but I just feel like the reason why is because of that budget. It's $80 million. You have big name celebrities voicing those Furious Five, which means you're not going to be able to get them all, which is really disappointing. Though the film is the weakest in the series overall, it's still an entertaining film. It's another enjoyable Kung Fu Panda film, but it could have been better if they had fixed these issues, and hopefully next time around that the next film can just outdo what this movie is. So I'm not necessarily saying this movie's bad. I'm just saying for myself, it is the weakest film in the series. So yeah, I'm going to give Kung Fu Panda 4 a 7 out of 10. I think it's an enjoyable film, but I seriously think that this is starting to kind of show some of the cracks in the series. I'm hoping that with the next film, they can redefine those and hopefully keep the franchise still going strong. So now, I have finished all the Kung Fu Panda films. Now I can go on to the other March films. So I will be doing my review for Love, Lies, Bleeding, and the American Society of Magical Negroes. So yeah, look forward to those reviews and other movie TV show reviews coming soon.